G'day everyone, Ruben Scoots here. Today we're going to go into my workshop and I'm going to share with you the process that I use to make a sub 1mm watch screw. The screw is thought to have been invented by Archytas. Archytas was a contemporary of Plato and he is thought to have invented the screw in 400 BC. However, the theory of the screw was invented by Archimedes 200 years before that. Screws were originally made by hand and the screw threads were cut by hand, and it was up to the craftsman, or it was put down to the skill of the individual craftsman, how the screw thread was going to be cut, its pitch, its size, etc. It wasn't until 1840 when Joseph Whitworth, he proposed that screw threads should have a standardized pitch based on a specific amount of threads per inch, and that they should all be cut at a 55-degree angle. I thought I would share the process of making a screw with a 0.74mm thread diameter. Let's get into it. Now I just need to mount the stock up into the lathe. First things first, just need to remove the little burr that was made from the jeweler's saw. So just file that off. So now we need to take down the diameter of the stock to accept the screw plate. We're going to take it down to 0.79mm. The mic reads 0.88mm, which leaves us with 0.14mm to take off the diameter. With this pass, we're aiming to have a diameter of 0.736mm. Take a second measurement. .736 or 7mm. Perfect. So here we have a traditional watchmaker's screw plate. It's basically a whole bunch of dies in one plate. This particular plate is an old one that was made in Switzerland by Martin, and you can see this L here, and that actually is the standard of thread that this thread plate uses. And I've got a table here. It's not a commonly used thread size, but I've got a size here. So we've taken down the diameter to 0.74mm. which will be a size 13 on the screw plate. This is the threading diameter here, and this is the pitch. So what I've made this little jig here, and it enables me to hold the screw plate in my tailstock in the lathe, which is important because the thread, particularly in these smaller diameters, needs to be held absolutely square to the stock to be threaded. So this gets mounted up in here, and I've made this center up, and what that allows me to do is I can put the center in from the back here, and that allows me to find the center. If you can see on the hole here, it's the number 13. If I poke the center in, it just keeps that absolutely square and centered, and then I can just tighten up my little lock screws. So now I can mount the screw plate up in the tailstock in the lathe. So it's very important when cutting the thread that you use some sort of cutting grease. Just apply a little bit to the end of the stock there. So I'm just keeping a steady pressure up on the screw plate with my right hand, and advancing the cutting action with my left hand. It's very important to really take your time, particularly with these smaller diameters. So we just need to make the top of the screw head flat. So I've got my screw polishing jig. I made this one up a little while back. Here I'm cutting the screw slot into the head of the screw. This can be done in various ways. It can be milled with a slitting saw in the mill, or in the lathe. It can also be done with a traditional screw slotting file, but I find this method to be sufficient. So I've just loosely wrapped the screw in some jeweler's wrapping wire, ready to be heated to cherry red and plunged into oil to be hardened. Now with the screw in its fully hardened state, it is ready to be mounted up into the lathe and to receive its final polish. The screw head is now ready to receive its final polish. It's mounted back up in the polishing jig and is gently polished on some 3M film. The screw is now ready to be tempered to its final blue, and I will just heat it on a small plate of brass. Thank you all very much for watching my video on making a sub 1mm watch screw. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to follow the build of my watch, and you can also check out my Instagram page. I'll put the link in the description box below. Cheers!